the little actress who played young Nora, she started crying. And she started to ask me, it's like, does Nora really have to leave? Does Nora really have to leave Korea? And I was like, yes, but you don't have to leave. You can stay.
Celine, this movie had me, whew, I had to sit in my emotions. I just told your cast that for a little bit after, because one of the themes that I really took from it was this idea of being content with where you are and the decisions that you've made, but also mourning potential and what could have been. And I wanted to ask, and also living in those moments at the same time. And I wanted to ask you, can you talk about some of those underlying themes that you wanted to get across when you sat down to write and to craft this story together?
Well, I think that you're talking about exactly the thing that I was hoping that we're able to do. To me, it was really about uh, many different things when it comes to what it's like to live our lives and grow older and move places and move on with certain things. Because I think that that is something that we're always having to do, regardless, no matter who you are. And I think every step of the way, the thing that I wanted to convey is the way that time and space feels for all of us as human beings, first more than anything else. And of course, I think that the story of Nora and the one is that she quite literally crossed the Pacific Ocean, to be in a different place. And she left somebody behind there, and she left a part of herself behind there too. And I think it does not mean that Nora's not happy being in the place that she is now, but I think that that little girl that she left behind back in Korea should also be acknowledged and grieved properly, because I think that that little girl deserves it more than anything.
I also really loved how progressive Nora's family was. I love that as a child, she's talking to her mom about her crush, that even, on the phone is looking up past classmates and has this really close relationship with her parents being artists and just being in that space, which I think is not something we see often with the immigrant family narrative. It's often these very cold parents who don't understand. And I wanted to ask you, can you talk about why it was important for you to showcase this type of parent and child relationship?
Well, I think that no one way of a parent-child relationship can describe any group of people or the way that everybody goes through it, because I think that it is pretty, it does change so significantly how you approach the world or how history works. That's why your parents and your relationship to them is such a fundamental building block for how your intimacy works or what you think is possible, what matters. So to me, it really meant something to present Nora's family life to be, first of all, one that I feel like I could relate it to as somebody who is a child of two Korean artists, but also it needed to feel really different from Haesung's family life. Because I feel like it's not just true that the two of them are separated by distance, but also they're separated by philosophy and an ideology in their families too. And I think, to me, that's why Haesung's family, that's part of the reason why it was important that the Nora's family was so specific, because we were also going to see Haesung's family that is a lot more traditional Korean family. And I think that, to me, is at the heart of that decision.
And I know that also with the actors, you were very intentional about them not meeting prior to some of their scenes so that we could see that really played out on screen. But even with the child actors, we see the chemistry immediately. We see the awkwardness in their body language. And what was it? What was it like building chemistry with two young actors and having them, making sure that that chemistry then transitioned into the adulthood and the adult years with Greta and Teo?
So with the children, because they don't have a lot of material for just like lines or something of acting, so something that I wanted to do for sure is to do a chemistry read. So first of all, I found the little Nora, little Nayoung first, because the similar way that I found Greta, where Greta really has this amazing thing where she at one moment feels like a full grown up and the next moment like a little girl. And I found the little girl who also has that quality where sometimes she feels like wise beyond her age, but sometimes she just looks like her age, you know. So I think I found this amazing girl, and then I looked for the boy who was going to play a young Haesung that was going to be right for her. And I think that in doing that, I did a chemistry read, and in the chemistry read, I made the boys tell the actress who was playing the little Nora to and ask her to not leave Korea and to stay with him and then be with him in Korea. And the boy that I ended up casting, he did such a beautiful piece of ad lib and did such an amazing performance of asking his friend to stay that the little actress who played young Nora, she started crying. And she started to ask me, it's like, does Nora really have to leave? You know, does Nora really have to leave Korea? And I was like, yes, but you don't have to leave, you can stay. So I think it's like, I think doing that, I knew that just in the way that they could work together. So that's the pair that I really had to do a chemistry read for exactly that reason, which is that you have to be able to feel the palpable chemistry even just by looking at them in these scenes where maybe they're not saying big lines, but they just like have to have something together.
I think that is some beauty in your direction on screen, is these moments of silence, but you still feel the heaviness, you know, even one of the scenes, without giving anything away, where we see Teo and Greta's character kind of just staring at each other for a long period of time, and you're like, oh my God, what's good? You know, you're on edge, but you feel the emotions and the uncertainties that they feel. And I'll also, this entire film is layered in this sense of longing from beginning to end. And as a first time feature film director, what were some of your inspirations that you took in order to create and collaborate with your cinematographer, but also with your composer? Because you can feel those layers even in the sound design and the music.
Mm-hmm. I think that all of it, I think what mattered to me the most in it is that we found the language that was this movie's own. Because I think that something that, as a first-time filmmaker especially, the thing that I was concerned about is for the movie to become an homage of something else, or for it to borrow from some other whole movie that I love. And I think that what I wanted was, first of all, every single decision when it comes to that to be able to stand on its own and be its own movie and develop a language of its own. And I knew that that was the task that at hand, and that's the task that I work through with all my collaborators too. So I think that every time that we were wondering about those things, we were always talking about how we are going to solve the problem of how to do the scene, how to solve the problem that is the scene that we're trying to do for the story and for character. And I think that's how every decision was made. So it really I wasn't really thinking, or I did my best to not think about references. And I try to think as much as I could about, okay, what does this movie need, right? And sometimes, for example, when it comes to score, it was very much like, well, what does this movie need? Does it need big sweeping strings and like overly sentimental something, or does it need something that leaves a little bit of there's a little bit of restraint and there's a little more room for audience to come to it with their own emotions, right? So I think those things are sort of decisions that you're making. And with my cinematographer, Xavier Kirchner, and I, we're always talking about what is the way to express the way that time moves in the movie, for example. And we weren't trying to do what somebody else was doing. We're trying to find our own language around it and how to accomplish that just in the philosophy of the way that we're creating the images. So I think that ultimately it really was something that I really did my best to be less referential and a little bit more like, this is the way that this movie speaks, or like this is the way that this movie lives and breathes and everything, and really focusing on that. But of course, there are movies that from the scenes or something that I really did pull from to think about how to solve a problem or something like that. Like, you know, my dinner with Andre, I made everybody watch so that we can do the bar speakeasy scene, because I was like, there's something about that movie that is really good about how to handle conversation. And I was like, okay, let's all watch that so that we know when we're walking into the bar scene, when the characters are talking, we're able to do that masterfully and well, the way that this movie did. Right, what Andre did, yeah.